last week, Paul, I talked to Jensen Huang of NVIDIA after the earnings, and we talked about why the China market is still so important for the company. This is what he said.
It would be great for China, and we have an opportunity to go capture some of that $50 billion that is growing at about 50% every year. The second largest AI and computing market in the world. America should be part of that. It's great for exports. It's great for our treasury. It's great for American technology leadership. And it enables us to leverage that leadership all around the world.
So in other words, Paul, here's a company that obviously is growing handily without China, but Jensen says we still need to be there. And so to your point about the China deal sort of hanging over everybody's heads, is that what's needed in order for tech stocks to sort of get their groove back?
Well, I think a comprehensive deal is very much needed, and I expect what happens here, Julie, is not only settling or coming to some kind of at least stalemate on tariffs, that we will address the AI GPU export controls. We'll probably also figure out where does the U.S. operations of TikTok end up residing. And so a lot is on this, and it's a very important catalyst. And even if NVIDIA in the short term has so much demand from other regions that it can get by without these China revenues, over the long term, they and the rest of these companies in the supply chain must be in the China market. They absolutely must. This is a situation, believe it or not, at least in my opinion, I believe that we need them much more than they need us.
News alert regarding NVIDIA, which seems to be responding to some rumors about supply constraints.
Yeah, which I was a little confused about. I even texted saying, are you front running something, because I hadn't seen as many rumors. But they're saying we've seen some erroneous chatter in the media about being supply constrained about the H100 and the H200 chips. They are saying that is false. They are not supply constrained. We have more than enough H100, H200 chips to satisfy every order without delay. So they are also saying that all of their cloud partners can rent these chips, but that doesn't mean they're unable to fulfill said orders. So they're just trying to let the market know that supply is not an issue, even with the H20s. These are the chips headed to China. They said that, even with the production of H20s, that's not reducing any of their supply for the H100. So it's not impacting, and they can satisfy both markets should the need be there. So they're just putting this out there because they're trying to get ahead of some rumors about them being sold out of supply, which is not true.
I wonder if in any way they thought that maybe what they call chatter, these are the words that they're using from their, the NVIDIA newsroom, that they posted on social media. They use the word chatter. They use the word rumor.
Erroneous chatter in the media.
Are they coming out and refuting that because they think maybe that those rumors and the chatter is in part why the stock has traded weak of late and then again today?
The stock, I think that's just a greater move with the chips in general. And you saw, some, Marvell numbers last week that disappointed Dell. And although AI servers are doing well, I guess it's the narrative of, the CapEx peak for AI is really weighing on it. For NVIDIA, the next major movers could be these tech conferences in the next week or so. But it was a kind of a situation where so many people got into this name before earnings. They got the earnings. It wasn't the blowout quarter that we'd seen in the past, and so now they're getting out. And we've seen this rotation out of chips in general just over the last 2 weeks. So I'm not necessarily sure it's company specific, but you constantly get these headlines coming from China and elsewhere that they're not looking to buy NVIDIA chips. So perhaps that's weighing on it as well.
Yeah, you just don't often see companies really give any credit or anything towards rumors or even respond to it. That's why maybe I'm
come
asking.
Back to you. I'll try to find a little bit more on this.
All right, Christina, thanks as always.
We cannot gloss over NVIDIA, though, because there has been some breaking news in the last hour on the AI chip leader. It is at the moment the third worst performer on the Dow Jones Industrials behind Nike and Goldman Sachs. Nike's the worst here. You've got NVIDIA down 2.5% in kind of an unusual move. NVIDIA took to X to address what it said was, quote, erroneous chatter in the media that it is facing supply shortages of its high-end chips. NVIDIA posted on X, quote, the rumor that NVIDIA is supply constrained or sold out of either H100 and 200 or Blackwell chips that power AI is, quote, categorically false. Over the past 5 sessions, it's been a rough go here, down 5.6% for NVIDIA at $169.70. Just keep in mind, it's not too far from its annual high of $184.
Today, I want to start with NVIDIA. Down about 6% over the last 4 days, down 2% today. The company's earnings showed restrictions on sales to China eating into revenue and uncertainty about when those sales could resume. That was to the tune of about $4 billion. Now, despite the recent drop, the stock is still up about 80% off that April low. Analysts see upside of more than 25% from current levels, with growth trends keeping valuation in check. We should note the whole chip sector under pressure today. A reminder, we learned early today that regarding TSMC, the U.S. has revoked TSMC's authorization to freely ship essential gear to its main Chinese chip-making base, potentially curtailing its production capabilities.
The worst stocks today, as befits of the horrendous wave of profit-taking, are the best ones of the year. That's what I told you about. When you get to this point in the year, you start ringing the register, which means the artificial intelligence components we all know about, namely NVIDIA and its compadres. Remember the long knives, which I have to start having a backdrop of long knives. I don't think you can get knives into the exchange, but long knives are what is out for NVIDIA. These stocks are so huge they can swing the entire market. In this tape, one company can be so big with so many tentacles that it can cast a pole on everything else.
All right, I hope you're all doing well today and staying calm in this market. Today, much of the market was in the red, as it is the first day of September. September is historically a weak month for the stock market, and it is completely normal for the market to take a breather during this time. Today was the first trading day of September, and if you look back at the first trading day of September in 2024, you will see that the market traded notably lower on that day as well. So this is nothing to be concerned about. It's a normal occurrence, and nothing has fundamentally changed. It's just the seasonality of the market. It may be a good idea to think about what companies you want to potentially add exposure to if we get a decent market pullback this month. Now, moving on to NVIDIA, I want to talk about 2 things. First, I'll cover today's news in case you missed today's first video. And then after that, I want to once again share my thoughts about NVIDIA's future in AI robotics. I talked about that in a video I posted this past weekend, but I think a lot of people missed that video. And so I want to mention it again, since I think AI robotics will eventually be a major revenue source for NVIDIA in the future that will be in addition to their massive data center business. And I don't think it's getting enough attention right now. Today, NVIDIA addressed rumors about being supply constrained and sold out of H100s and H200s. NVIDIA said their cloud partners can rent every Hopper chip they have online, but that doesn't mean NVIDIA is unable to fulfill new orders. NVIDIA says they have more than enough Hopper to satisfy every order without delay. Additionally, the rumor that H20 reduced NVIDIA supply of H100s, H200s, or Blackwell is also false. The stock reacted positively intraday when NVIDIA published this post. Now I want to very quickly cover some news about TSMC, which manufactures NVIDIA's chips. The U.S. has revoked TSMC's China waiver for shipping chip supplies to China. It's important to note that this applies to chip-making supplies, not the chips themselves. This news has no impact on NVIDIA's ability to sell chips in China. Also over the weekend, it was reported that TSMC may raise prices for advanced semiconductor manufacturing by 5 to 10% in 2026. At the same time, price discounts may be coming for older manufacturing technologies. Overall, I don't view this as a problem for NVIDIA. In 2026, we're expecting the launch of Vera Rubin, and NVIDIA should still have very strong pricing power to cover an increase in production costs. Now, I'll very briefly mention the Alibaba report from last week in case you missed it, without spending too much time on it. I do not view the news about Alibaba developing an AI chip to be a problem for NVIDIA. The Wall Street Journal claims that the chip is still in development. They claim the chip is for inference, not training. And we're also expecting NVIDIA to soon offer a new chip in China built on the Blackwell architecture that would, of course, be better than the H20. And so I think the Alibaba report from last Friday is just short-term noise that does not change the long-term thesis. Additionally, NVIDIA's business is accelerating right now, even without having any exposure to China. NVIDIA's Q2 revenue came in at $46.7 billion, and they guided Q3 revenue at $54 billion without including any potential China H20 sales during the quarter. NVIDIA's business continues to accelerate regardless of the China situation, and that is what we should be focusing on. Now I want to talk about NVIDIA's future in AI robotics. Let me start by saying that I think AI robotics will eventually be a major revenue source for NVIDIA in addition to their massive data center business, and I don't think this is getting enough attention right now. This past week, NVIDIA announced general availability of Jetson AGX Thor. Thor delivers 7.5 times more AI compute, 3.1 times more CPU performance, and double the memory of its predecessor. What's important about Jetson Thor is that it unlocks real-time, on-device, multi-AI inference in demanding applications such as agriculture, surgery assistance, and many more. Before Jetson Thor, this was not feasible in these demanding applications. Now, Jetson Thor will enable robots to perform reasoning on-device at the edge in highly demanding applications without having to be connected to a data center. Think about the implications this has. Robots will now be able to have intelligent interactions with the real world in ways that were previously unfeasible. I've briefly mentioned AI agents multiple times over the past couple months or so, and I think we will see a surge in compute demand from agentic AI that extends well into 2026. But what I want to notice here is that Jetson Thor will enable the next generation of physical AI agents. Instead of having an AI agent perform digital tasks, we're now talking about physical AI agents performing physical tasks in the real world. There are already over 2 million developers building on the NVIDIA robotics stack. And I want you to notice that NVIDIA is establishing themselves as the underlying infrastructure of physical AI. Not only is NVIDIA selling the hardware in the data center where the AI models are trained, but they're also selling the hardware that will allow the AI models to interact with the physical world outside of the data center. While this is a relatively small portion of NVIDIA's business right now, I think AI robotics will eventually become a sizable amount of revenue in the future. Looking at this slide from NVIDIA's investor presentation, NVIDIA believes the next wave of AI is physical AI. They expect the world to be filled with 100 million self-driving cars, billions of robots, as well as millions of factories and hundreds of thousands of warehouses implementing AI robotics. All of that to say that this is a massive long-term growth opportunity for NVIDIA. We can see that there are 3 phases to producing physical AI. First, the models are trained on NVIDIA DGX. Second, the models are taught, tested, and their skills validated through NVIDIA Omniverse. And third, the AI software is run on the robot through NVIDIA AGX. This third phase is where NVIDIA's Jetson AGX Thor comes into play. Also, as a brief side note, notice that enterprises license NVIDIA Omniverse at $4,500 per GPU per year. That is solid recurring revenue. All of this to say that NVIDIA is establishing themselves as the underlying infrastructure of physical AI, and AI robotics represents a massive long-term growth opportunity that is not getting anywhere near as much attention as it should be getting right now. This is a massive growth opportunity that I expect NVIDIA to grow into in the coming years. Right now, we have multiple successful product ramps. Blackwell Ultra is ramping very quickly, and Rubin is already in fab and on schedule to launch in 2026. I'm expecting a surge in compute demand fueled by agentic AI that extends well into 2026, and Jensen appears to agree with that thesis, as he said on the earnings call that reasoning. Agentic AI should be a major growth driver in 2026. AI demand is still extremely strong. New use cases continue to be developed, and I don't view NVIDIA's customer concentration as a major problem right now for multiple reasons. First, each of the hyperscalers already have multiple use cases for AI infrastructure. They're not aimlessly investing in AI infrastructure with the hope of eventually finding a use for it. Rather, they already have multiple uses for it, and they're investing heavily in an attempt to meet very strong demand from their paying customers. Additionally, we have to consider that the major CSPs, such as Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, provide cloud services to millions of customers. While on the surface, it looks like these are just 3 customers for NVIDIA, the reality is that these 3 customers are providing services to millions of customers. And so, to say that customer concentration is a problem for NVIDIA right now is not necessarily correct. Additionally, we have multiple groups of customers that are really just starting to enter the picture in a meaningful way. Sovereign AI, enterprise AI, and AI native startups. These customer groups will fuel even more demand for NVIDIA's products on top of what we've already seen from the hyperscalers. Looking ahead, we have 2 upcoming events. First, we have the Goldman Sachs Technology Conference on September 8th. Last year, when Jensen spoke at this event, the stock rallied as he spoke about strong demand. I don't know what the stock will do this year, but I'm saying that this event is important for the stock as the event is directed at the financial community. So pay attention to this on September 8th. And then after that, we have GTC in Washington, D.C. on October 28th with a keynote from Jensen Huang at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Jensen said on the earnings call that he is anxious to share more details about Rubin with us at GTC. Blackwell Ultra is ramping quickly. Rubin is in fab and on track to launch in 2026. Then we have Rubin Ultra in 2027, and then we have Feynman after that in 2028. We have a clear data center product roadmap extending into 2028, and Jensen believes there will be $3 to $4 trillion of global AI factory build-out between now and 2030. That means he is expecting growing AI demand and an expanding total addressable market underpinning all of this. I continue to be bullish on NVIDIA long-term, and I seriously think this company still has a lot of runway ahead of it. At least that's my view of the situation. I know market pullbacks are not enjoyable, but they are healthy, so don't panic. Remember that September seasonality is a normal occurrence, and perhaps consider which companies you want to add exposure to if we get a decent pullback this month. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.